tube. We're here sitting with Steve Saka and the Dunbarton Tobacco and Trust, and I'm on cameraman duty, so if you can't see me, I'm sorry, but we'll turn it around and we'll see what Steve's doing here. Hey Steve, how you doing?
Hey!
Hey Steve, what are you doing?
I am checking the absolute moisture content in these cigars. When you manufacture a cigar, you have to wet the tobaccos in order to prep them to go to the table. So typically, you want to wet tobaccos to be about 15% to 16% absolute moisture to make them pliable enough in order for you to actually bunch the cigar, and even more importantly, for you to be able to pass the wrapper on the bunch. So when you first pull them from the table, after they go through quality control the next day, the next place they go is they go into the escapartes, the cool rooms. Now those are the same rooms that are used for aging cigars, but in the beginning you're not actually aging the cigars. What you're doing is you're wicking the cigars, because you have to get the excess moisture out of the tobacco that you had to incorporate in order to be able to actually physically make the cigar. So what ends up happening is, typically over a period of weeks, that excess moisture will basically evaporate out through the foot of the cigar. Ideally, you want the cigars to be somewhere around, depending on the blend, 11.75 to 12.5% absolute moisture content. So with lighter, milder tobaccos, sometimes that process will only take 3 weeks. Typically, traditionally, with heavier cigars, it'll end up taking about 6 to 7 weeks. Regretfully for me, on these Todos Los Dias, these were made about 12 weeks ago, and they are still holding too much moisture. So you can see that one's currently sitting at 13. So I wouldn't want to give that to a customer or to a shop owner to smoke, because not that it wouldn't smoke well, but probably it won't smoke as good. It'll deaden the flavor. It could potentially give you issues with tightness, because the tobaccos are still swollen within the bunch, and it can give you burn issues too. So I'm basically going through each cigar one by one, using the psychrometer to see what the moisture content is, and if they are under 13, 12.5 or so, then I've been willing to share those with people.
So tell us about the cigar that you're testing, the Todos Los Dias, that you're debuting at the show.
Yeah, Todos Los Dias is a Nicaraguan Puro. It's made exclusively out of tobaccos from Jalapa and Esteli. It has a Nicaraguan Sangron Criollo Capa, but it's unlike most Criollo Capas because it has a very, very fine texture on it, because I really sorted it very carefully for the very thinnest of the thinnest. And ultimately, it's a very powerful, very strong cigar, but it's unique because unlike most strong cigars that touch you as being really strong from the first puff, it hits you with a lot of black pepper. This one does neither of those two things. It actually starts off as a medium-bodied cigar, and it just slowly builds in intensity the longer you smoke it. And once you get down to the last third, it's a lot of nicotine, and it's really, really strong. And the other thing that makes it really different is, instead of that traditional black pepper sensation, it actually kind of gives you a red pepper, cayenne pepper, like a sweet chili pepper. So it has this, it hits you on the side of your tongue, and then it kind of washes over the back of your palate the longer you smoke it, and it builds and it lingers, and it just gets warmer and warmer. It's a unique sensation. It's a much different approach at trying to make a really, really strong cigar. And ultimately, I don't know. I mean, I don't know whether people will really like it, or people will be like, that was kind of stupid. We'll see.
What's the price point going to be, and when do you anticipate them hitting the shelf?
The price point runs $11 to $13 on average, and they're supposed to ship at the end of this month, but looking at these moisture levels, I'm not sure that'll happen. So I'm going to be down in Nika in a couple weeks, and I'll be going through everything as we're prepping them for packaging. And if I'm still seeing levels of this high, I'll probably hold them back another month in escapartes and give them another test.
One of my pet peeves is cigars that have a little too much humidity in them and don't draw well and burn well, because who's got time for that, you know?
Yeah, and it shouldn't. I mean, and it's very common here at the trade show for manufacturers to hand them cigars, and they'll say, "Oh, it's a little wet. It's going to be much better in 4 to 6 weeks." But I want people to look. You only get one chance to experience it the first time. So, I mean, I ultimately don't know whether someone's going to like or dislike my cigars, but I want it when they're making up their mind that it smokes the way I intended it to smoke, tastes the way I intended it to taste. And if it has the improper moisture in it, then they're not really getting a fair example of what the cigar is about.
Absolutely. Steve, thanks very much for sharing that with us.
Pleasure's all mine, man.
I think a little something people don't think about when they're having their cigars or picking out their cigars. What else is going on? Anything else new with the?
In Mi Querida, we're basically showcasing two sizes that aren't widely distributed. We have the 7x64 Mas Sucia, and it's actually the strongest of the Mi Queridas. It's quite heavy, and it's probably a good cigar for the guy that likes diggers, you know, because most of the really large gigantes tend to be milder, so there aren't a lot of really high quality, super large cigars. So this will be kind of a cigar that's meant for a change of pace for that guy. And then we also added the Gordita. The Gordita is a 4x48, and the 4x48 is it tastes just like the rest of the Mi Queridas. It's that same earthy sweetness, dirty finish, real roundness, but in a more petite package. And the thing that's nice about it is, even though it's only 4x48, because of the tobacco and how it's constructed, it smokes for about 45 to 60 minutes. So it isn't like, even though it's only 4 inches, it isn't something that you're going to smoke in a half an hour. It gives you your money's worth. And then the other thing that I think most people are interested in is the next release of the Muestra de Saka. We have the next batch of Muestras is the Naka Tamales, and it's a 6x48. And like the other Muestra, every Muestra is different. Totally unique vitola, totally unique blend. And every one of them is some sort of like personal challenge project. So the challenge with this one is it possible to make a cigar in the old way they used to do it? Back in the day, when they would make blends and whatnot, they only used one tobacco from one farm. I mean, all cigars were made the way Cuban cigars were, all using one tobacco. And really, by selecting the leaves and by changing the fermentation processes, that's where you were trying to get your complexity from. But over the last 30 years, with the modern cigars we make in Central America, we're working with ingredients from, dozens of countries, hundreds of farms, hundreds of individual hybridized seed varieties. So we have 1 billion ingredients to create an interesting smokable cigar. So the question was, in the modern era, could you use those old techniques and make a cigar that could hold up to the cigars that we currently make? And that's what this Naka Tamale is it's an experimentation to see whether that's possible. I'll be really interested to see what consumers think about it when it hits the shelves.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. I haven't gotten to the Exclusivo yet, but I have a couple in the humidor ready to go. But I'm looking. I don't know. I'm waiting for a friend of mine to get together with me to share with him.
Well, that one's kind of milder. It's really a lighter, creamier cigar. So when you do choose to smoke it with a clean palate. You know what I mean? I like it. It's an interesting blend. In the end, it probably is. I was trying to make a milder cigar, and that's what I achieved. Probably for me personally, it probably ended up a little bit too mild for my own taste. You know what I mean? So for me, Exclusivo would have been like an occasional cigar. I know I have a lot of people that say it's the best cigar ever made, but I think, which I like, because I like every cigar of mine to be different. I want them to have a different smoking experience. I want Mi Querida to be something. I want Sobremesa to be something. I even want in Sobremesa, I want Short Churchill to be something different than Cervantes Fino. So, And I want to make a wide range. I don't want to just make. Oh, he's the guy that makes really strong peppery cigars, or he's the guy that makes great broadleaf cigars, or he's the guy that, you know what I mean? I want to make good cigars across the spectrum, or at least what I think are good cigars.
I think most of the ones I've had have been pretty good.
That's good to hear.
I'm happy. I'm happy when I can have a Mickey Rita or a Sobremesa or a Umbagog. I haven't had a miss yet.
It'll happen.
Okay. Well, Steve, thanks a bunch for sharing this activity with us. Appreciate it.
Oh, pleasure's all mine.
Have a great trip at home, and we'll see you again.